Here is what separates people who use the 4-quadrant framework successfully from those who try it once and quit. They know exactly what to say when the team disagrees about where an item belongs. That's what this lecture solves. I'm going to walk you through the exact facilitation process step by step, so you can run this analysis in, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes and walk out with the clear commitments. Now, before we start, two crucial things. First, keep the 4-quadrant canvas visible the entire time. This is not a discussion exercise. This is a sorting exercise. And second, we are not solving these problems today. We are deciding how to handle them. Keep in mind that. That discussion prevents most of the facilitation problems you will encounter. Let me show you what this looks like in real time. Step 1 is silent brainstorming. Start your retrospective the way you probably already do. Give the team 5 minutes to generate improvement ideas on sticky notes or in whatever digital tool you are using. The key word here is silent. No discussion yet. Just capture what's on people's minds. You might use a prompt like, what's one thing that would make our next sprint more effective? Or what's slowing us down that we should address? 5 minutes, that's it. Step 2, read everything out loud without discussion. Now, gather all the ideas and read them out loud one by one. Don't let the team start debating yet. Just make sure everyone hears what was surfaced. This does two things. It ensures nothing gets lost, and it gives the team a sense of the full landscape before you start categorizing. Step 3, plot each item on the canvas as a team. So here is where the Locus of Control framework actually gets used. Pull up the 4-quadrant canvas. You can do this on a whiteboard, mirror board, PowerPoint slide, whatever works for your team. Now go through each idea and ask the team, where does this belong? You're asking two questions for every item. First, does the team control this or does it require organizational support? And second, if we fix this, would it meaningfully impact our delivery? For simple items, this goes fast. Someone says, we need a second test environment. Well, the team immediately recognizes that's organizational dependent and high impact. That's quadrant 3, done. For items where it's not so obvious, use dot voting. Everyone votes on control and impact, and you plot it based on where the majority lands. You don't need consensus on every item. You need good enough categorization to move forward. Step 4, discuss only quadrant 1 and quadrant 3 items. Here is the time saver. Once everything is plotted, you ignore quadrants 2 and 4. Quadrant 2 items get batched for later or delegated to volunteers, and quadrant 4 items get acknowledged and released. You spend your discussion time only on quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. For quadrant 1, you're asking which of these should we commit to this sprint. Pick 1 or 2, not 5. You're building a system for reliable execution, not collecting a wish list. And for quadrant 3, you're asking which of these need formal escalation. Again, pick 1 or 2 that generally matter. And just so you know, quadrant 3 items don't disappear. They leave the retrospective and enter different system, which you will learn later in this course. So your team isn't parking important problems. They are routing them properly. Everything else can wait. This is why the whole exercise fits comfortably into 15 minutes. You are only discussing what matters. At this point, you've already prevented 3 common retro failures. Number 1, debating unsolvable issues, overcoming too many actions, and leaving without ownership. That's why this approach feels calmer even though you are moving faster. Step 5. Commit to 1 or 2 Quadrant 1 items for sprint integration. Before you close the retrospective, get explicit commitment. Which Quadrant 1 improvements are we taking into sprint planning? Who owns each one? What does done look like? That's your output. Not a list of 10 vague action items, 1 or 2 well-formed improvements that will actually get executed. Now let me address the part that always creates friction. Disagreements about where items belong. Handling disagreements on control versus organizational dependent. You will have items where half the team thinks it's something they can fix, and the other half thinks it requires organizational approval. So, here is the test that resolves this every time. You can ask, can we implement this next sprint without asking anyone's permission? If the answer is yes, it's team controlled. If the answer is, well, we need to check with or we need to approval from this, it's organizational dependent. That question cuts through the ambiguity fast, handling disagreements on high impact versus low impact. This one is trickier because impact is subjective. Use impact voting. Everyone rates the item on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 means this would significantly improve our delivery, and 1 means this would be nice but wouldn't change much. Average the votes. If it's above 3.5, call it high impact. If it's below, call it low impact. You don't need perfect precision here. You just need to avoid spending 20 minutes debating whether something is 3 or 4. And one last thing to watch for: inflated categorization. Teams sometimes push items into Quadrant 3 because it feels more legitimate than admitting something is low priority. If someone says, this needs organizational support, but you cannot identify what decision, budget, or authority is actually required, it's probably not Quadrant 3. The test is simple. If it doesn't require a decision, budget, or authority above the theme, it's not Quadrant 3, regardless of how important it feels. So here is how this shows up. Someone says, we need a better tooling. You can ask, is this a budget decision or configuration choice? If it's just a changing setting or adopting something already available, it's not Quadrant 3, right? If it requires procurement approval, call it out gently. I hear that this matters to you, but what specific organizational decision or resource would we need? If we cannot name that, this might already be Quadrant 2, something we could do but isn't urgent right now. That keeps the framework honest. So here is what you learned. 5 clear steps that take you from a pile of ideas to committed action items in about 15 minutes. Silent brainstorming, read out loud, plot on the canvas, discuss only Quadrant 1 and 3, and commit to 1 or 2 improvements. And 2 decisions test that resolve disagreements without endless debate. The control test for team versus organization, impact voting for high versus low. In the next section, we shift from filtering to execution. You will learn how to take those Quadrant 1 commitments and embed them into your sprint workflow so they actually get done, not forgotten in some separate improvement backlog. Because identifying the right improvements is the only half the system. Making sure they happen is the other half. If you follow these steps exactly, your retrospective will feel calmer, shorter, and more decisive, usually the very first time you try it.